All right, so today we're going to talk about area of a parallelogram. At this point, you have done triangles and rectangles. So with parallelograms, we're going to avoid the easy example. So the parallelogram formula, we look at area equals base times height. This is very similar to a rectangle, length times width, base times height, however you look at it. The only difference is we're, again, looking at the base and the perpendicular height formed by like this corner up here, a vertice straight down as a perpendicular line. So obviously with problems that you've probably seen in middle school, you can be given a base and a height and just plug into this formula. What we're going to look at are things like how does the Pythagorean theorem affect this, and or how does trigonometry affect this. So I'll do one example of each, one with finding the height using Pythagorean theorem and one finding the height using trigonometry. In both instances, we need to find this perpendicular height and utilize it as it references the base of the parallelogram. So let's start with the Pythagorean theorem. That's this example here. You'll notice that I technically have a base because this is 18 up here. That means that this down here is also 18. Think about our properties of parallelograms. So that means I just need to find the height here. What's great about this is that this height is perpendicular on both sides. So that means I can use Pythagorean theorem to go find out what the height is and plug into the formula. So if I looked at this problem, I have 5 squared plus 8 squared is equal to 13 squared. And based off of that, I could solve for the height using the Pythagorean theorem. This gives me 25. This gives me 169. Of course, a lot of you guys probably see this as a Pythagorean trip already. If you do so, feel free to jump ahead. But for right now, I'm going to solve using Pythagorean theorem. So I can show you how it actually becomes that value. This gives me 144 when I subtract 169 from 25 and square root both sides. Height is going to give me 12. That means the height of my figure is going to be 12. So when all the dust settles and I'm trying to solve this for the area of the parallelogram, I get area is equal to 12 times 18. Right? And for this example, I would simplify this and get 216. And they have centimeters, so it'd be centimeters squared. So that is going to be the area of a parallelogram using Pythagorean theorem. Now, another method we could do is using trigonometry to solve for the area of a parallelogram. Right? With this, you're probably going to use a calculator because we're going to go back and use SOHCAHTOA. So if you have one of these TI-30s or TI-34s or even an 89, that'd be good to use to solve for the area of parallelogram using trig. So this is what it's going to look like. As you see from the bullet points above, you're going to notice that sometimes we don't give you the perpendicular height, and you're going to have to drop the altitude yourself. So drop this altitude or this height. It's supposed to be perpendicular, and we need to find that. We need to know what this height is. But again, that requires trigonometry because all they give us is an angle. They don't give us the little base here or the hypotenuse. To use Pythagorean theorem, we have to use trig. The base down here is 36. We know that because of properties of parallelogram. So last thing we need to find is height. So if I looked at 52, I have opposite and I have hypotenuse. So if I have opposite over hypotenuse, I'm going to be using sine from SOHCAHTOA. So that means I'm going to do sine of 52 is equal to our opposite, which is our height, what we're missing, over our hypotenuse, 18. To solve for the height, remember you need to multiply by 18 on both sides. And that's going to give us height is equal to, and that's where I put in the calculator, 18 times the sine of 52. When I simplify, it looks like it. I'm going to do to one decimal place, 14.2. Right now, we know the height of this could be 14.2. So now that I have the height, all I'm going to do is plug into the formula. I have area equals 14.2 times 36. I'm going to multiply those values. 14.2 times 36. And I'm going to get 511.2. 511.2. We're finding areas, so that's going to be feet squared. So sometimes when solving for parallelograms area, you need Pythagorean theorem, as we did with this example. And sometimes you need trigonometry. That's where you drop the altitude and find the height yourself.